Hello! Welcome to Ashburg. My name is Ashley, and this week we are reading Belladonna by Adeline Grace. I had to eat that sneeze. Okay. Well, humiliating. So, I'm coming at you in front of my new bookshelves that I built almost all by my lonesome. So basically, to my resume, you can add carpenter, contractor, because building two small Billy bookcases from IKEA is the same thing. Wait, but speaking of the bookcases, you may note that they're looking pretty sparse. They're looking pretty empty. And that is because while I do have some books at my parents' house, I don't have enough books to fill up this bookshelf. And the way that my bank account is actually set up, I can't just go out and buy 60 books just to fill them up. And I don't want to, because I want to have at least like a little bit of discernment as to what comes into my home and occupies this limited space. That's also the reason why I'm not going to give you like a bookshelf tour, because giving you a bookshelf tour of mostly empty shelves would be like saying I'm going to take you to the zoo and it's just two monkeys and a dog. And perhaps in your head, you're like, Ash, you got to get your bread up so you can buy more books and fill these shelves. And to that I say, yeah, you're right. Okay, so this week we read Belladonna by Adeline Grace. This is, I believe, a young adult historical fantasy romance, which I actually have never read. Belladonna is the story of a 19-year-old girl named Signa Farrow. Signa was orphaned when she was very young and is the sole survivor of a very, very wealthy family. Since then, she has been bounced around from guardian to guardian, random family member to random family member. If you're wondering why at age 19, Signa is still being bounced between family members, it's because this is a historical fiction. This story actually takes place during the time period when women aren't people. The hierarchy was God, men, rocks, worms, girls. Throughout her life, Signa has been plagued by the ability to see spirits and to see Death himself. And Death is actually one of the main characters in this story. Finally, Signa gets sent to live with the Hawthorns. The Hawthorns are another very wealthy family who are currently reeling from the death of their matriarch, Lillian. Although it's believed that Lillian just died from a mysterious illness, her spirit comes to Signa to tell her that she was actually murdered. And so Signa, along with some help from Death, decides to investigate Lillian's murder. So if you want to see how my week of reading Belladonna went, please continue watching the vlog, and please also continue enjoying my very empty bookshelves that I built. See? Up front, I have A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens to show you how smart I am. What? Have I read it? So we are officially 56 pages into Belladonna. We're about to start chapter 7. So far, it's been fine. It's a little early. This is a 400-page book. Signa is the orphan of a very wealthy family and stands to get a huge inheritance when she turns 20 years old. Right now she's 19. Since she's been an orphan, she's kind of been bopping around to different family members who've been serving as her guardians. These different family members really only take her in because if they do, they get a little tiny piece of her inheritance. It's a monthly stipend that's supposed to be used to clothe, feed, and educate her. Naturally, all of her family members take the money for themselves and for dinner give her a pat on the back. So that's been Signa's life for a number of years. The reason that Signa has had so many guardians in her life is because they have this funny little habit of dying. There's a repeating pattern. Signa moves in with the family member, some time passes, and then Death comes and snatches them, which might have been fun at some point, but he keeps claiming her relatives and making her look insane. Signa says, Death, you can't keep killing my relatives. I need a home. And Death says, cite your source. So Signa and Death have a very volatile relationship, mostly on her end. She hates him, but he more finds her amusing. Where we are now in the story. Signa's last guardian. So she gets taken in by the Hawthorns, who own this beautiful estate called Thorn Grove. Signa's looking forward to this fresh start because they're another wealthy family instead of the bums that have been taking her in before. And she's really looking forward to this change because she just wants a normal life. She wants to have friends. She wants to find love. She wants people to stop saying that she's murdering her family for funsies. It's the little things in life. But of course, Death is never too far away from her. We've just gotten to Thorn Grove. We have met the Hawthorne family in addition to some members of the Thorn Grove staff. We're going to talk more in depth about the characters later on as we learn more about them, but I do just want to point out the fact that Mr. Hawthorne, the patriarch of the Hawthorne family, is like mad with grief over the death of his wife and his daughters dying of the same disease, and where another father might be by her bedside at all times, look out for her, pray over her, something. He's checks notes, throwing parties downstairs. Sensational. Like, his daughter's in the house. She's being kept in the house. She's not in a hospital. She's upstairs, fighting for her life while her dad gets drunk. Thoughts on the book so far? Like I said, it's pretty early. I don't have any solid opinions about it yet. The writing itself is just okay. I think it's getting the job done. I have noticed there are times when the author will use the same adjective or even just the same word like a couple times in the same paragraph, and I don't think it's intentional. I think that she just wants to get the point across. I think that's just a nitpicky thing for me, but I always notice it, and it's just like, get a thesaurus. And there are sometimes I wish she would paint an even more vivid picture, but I am still pretty immersed when I'm reading it, so I can't really complain too much. So last we spoke, I think we were at about the 50 or 60 page mark, and now we are at 150. Before you say anything, not a lot has really gone on yet in ways of getting into the meat of the story. At this point, we've moved Signa fully into Thorn Grove. We've met our entire cast, and the murder mystery has only just started to reveal itself, and Signa has only just become a part of it. So let's discuss the Hawthorns. The Hawthorns are the wealthy family who lives in Thorn Grove. They've made their money through a gentleman's club, which when I read it, I was like, ooh, but in this context, it's not that interesting. It's just a place where rich old men go to be rich, drink brandy, and probably sexually harass the waitstaff. But the Hawthorns. There used to be 4 of them, and now there are only 3, and one's kind of out the door. It was the husband, Elijah, who is married to Lillian, his wife, who is now deceased and who died of a mysterious illness, and their 2 children, Percy and Blythe. And Blythe is currently dying of the same disease that killed her mother. And there are also various cast members that come along with the story, but we don't have to get into all of them. The Gentleman's Club is currently in Elijah Hawthorne's name, but he's kind of running it into the ground because he's just so taken over by the death of his wife and the fact that his daughter is currently dying. I read a little more. He does actually care and he does spend time with her. He's just crazy. Blythe is sickly but has a will to live, and Percy's just trying to basically keep everything together. So it is tragic, but like we said, at this point, Signa has moved into Thorn Grove, and although she seems intent on just having a regular life, Lillian's ghost has come to her and alluded to the fact that she was murdered and that whatever killed her is currently killing her daughter. And of course, Signa takes it upon herself to solve this mystery. And even though it was her hope that she would escape death, of course, he's always here. So now we're like getting into the thick of the story finally. I think the first 150 pages were just a lot about build-up and setting the tone for what the rest of the book was going to be. And honestly, that was fine. I'm usually the first person to say that a book was too long. I'm a slasher. If I was an editor, I would just slash. But I do find that I like the pace that the story's going. I also like Signa as a main character. She has no manners. She was raised in a barn. She's curious and she has like no tact, but that can be forgiven because she's grown up largely in isolation. And I do like the fact that she's realistic in that way. Like she's just not gonna show up and be the belle of the ball. Sometimes she's just like a little bit of a dickhead, and we love that for her. I also find that I really love the scenes between her and Death. The scenes between them honestly just feel so intimate and a little romantic, and they have this draw to each other that they really just can't explain quite yet. I love how he just randomly pops up like, and I think that Grace does a really good job of building that tension. So I'm enjoying that so far as well. So, my boyfriend is off tonight doing extrovert things. I figured we would use this time to read as much of Belladonna as we can. Also, I'm making pizza rolls because I'm currently not being cared for, so. We are now on page 306. When I said that we were going to make a lot of progress, I meant it. That means that we have less than 100 pages left. I really like this. Yes, this book is primarily about the murder mystery, and that's still going on, and we're honestly not any closer to knowing who's behind it all, but it's also heavily focused on the potential romances that Signa has with Death and then other male characters in the book. And I do like reading about Signa's almost like sexual awakening. Like we talked about, this book is historical fantasy fiction. So it's unheard of that at the age of 19, Signa would have kissed a man, touched a man, held hands. None of that. So when she's now placed in situations where she's, experiencing physical contact with men or like being pushed against a man's chest, she's like, wait a minute. I see what all the fuss was about. But as the book has progressed, Signa's just gotten so much really good character development, coming into her own and discovering what she really wants out of her life and how maybe that's changed from what she originally thought that she wanted. As for the plot itself, we still have so many unanswered questions. Usually by this time, I have an inkling, a sprinkle, if you will, of who is behind the murder. But I really have no idea with this. I feel like Grace does a really good job of sprinkling little hints throughout the book to make you suspect pretty much the entire cast, but you can't know definitively who it is. I'm not at that stage yet. This is my first experience with a fantasy romance mishmash, because typically I'll just go for the straight up fantasy plots, magic powers, people getting eaten, pain. And I never thought I would like this cocktail, but it's really doing the job. For the final 100 pages, I do think we're going to read those together, do some spoiler-free live reactions, just so you can get a sense if I thought the ending paid off for the longer journey that this book is. But as of right now, I really don't have any serious complaints, which is suspicious. So we have less than 100 pages left of Belladonna. My baby and I are back from outside. I had to take him out to go pee and poop. There was a guy who was jogging to his car. I guess his friends were about to leave and he was trying to catch up. And it's the nighttime, so it was dark. And so he was kind of running. He was running not at us, but kind of at a diagonal. But my mini schnauzer was He was about to throw a right hook. He doesn't like when anybody runs towards me. Even if it's my partner, he doesn't like it. Are you mommy's baby? Vicious. But you know what? No. Anyway, we have less than 100 pages of Belladonna left to go. Somebody here is targeting the Hawthorne family. Signa is kind of reaching her wit's end. I think we're approaching the climax of the story now. The Hawthornes are, to her knowledge, the last living family that she has left. They've also just been very good to her, and they're the first guardians in a long time that have actually treated her with some respect and dignity. So Signa, let's handle this. Also, this is water, not wine. Summer's coming up. I gotta get my body together. Okay, wait. Before I get much further in, I do just want to say, I think I know who it is. I think I know who the killer is. No, I have a guess. I just don't have a motive, but let's continue. There is a part of Signa's history that's missing. The book kind of alludes to it, but it doesn't give any specifics. And I don't know if that was done on purpose or if that part's just not really relevant to the overarching story. And this isn't the only book in the series, so maybe this will be explored in the other books, but it is something that has popped into my mind. Anyway, I am enjoying this. I'm enjoying my life right now. Woo! This is so romantic. This book is so romantic. Like, I'm getting goosebumps over this romance. That was just so good. It's a little over the top, but it's also just so whimsical. I don't know. Am I becoming a soft-hearted fantasy romance girl? Horrible for my brand. Okay, we're getting to one of the first big reveals together. I'm nervous, but I'm so excited because we have like roughly 60 pages left, and I want to know how all of this fits together so bad. Oh, I knew that. Well, I didn't know that, but I'd pieced that together. I wanted a bigger reveal. Listen. I will say that the writing has improved in quality the further that we've gotten in and the closer that we've gotten to the end. I feel like in the last 200 pages or so, Grace really hit her stride, and it's been pretty good since then. And then she will do things like hit me with the sentence that I just read that literally made my like little brain go. It was so good. Oh. Wow. Wait, but then why? Hold on. We got to piece this together. Wait a minute. What? Wait. What? What? No, this is good. This is good. Hold on a minute, guys. Wow. Excuse me. We just finished Belladonna. This is one of the better YA books. This was honestly just such a solid read. I really liked Signa as a main character. I liked the way that she developed as the book progressed. I loved her romance and just generally the romance in this book. The secondary characters I felt pretty fond of. I don't think that outside of Signa, Death, and maybe like one or two other characters, I felt very strongly towards them. The first big reveal was pretty surprising, but then the second big reveal had my jaw on the floor. But all in all, Belladonna gets a full 4 stars. So that being said, thank you so much for visiting Ashburg. We hope to see you again. We are so happy to have had you here. Bye!